Today I'm playing Spider Foes. I've got Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Mysterio, Zemo, and Bullseye. I like this team a lot for just like the raw damage it can put out. It has a lot of ways to cheat damage onto characters, as well as all the models are pretty good damage dealers in their own right. I think Mysterio is a special kind of sauce here because he has mystic attacks, which allow me to really shred Panther if I get a hold of him. For my tactics cards today, I'm bringing Brace and Medpack as my restricted cards. I just think they're the best damage mitigation cards, and the team's full of beefy boys, so I just want the best damage mitigation I can. And then I brought Well-Laid Plans, The Grand Illusion, and Sinister Traps. Sinister Traps, I think, is one of the reasons to be playing Spider Foes. It really messes with people's planned turn ones, as well as just being able to throw more damage out there. I'm a little bit worried that with all his pushes and pulls that he has in his lineup, that he'll be able to pull me into it, but hopefully that doesn't happen. Well-Laid Plans is a really good one to play on cubes because the incremental damage that cubes already builds up, plus the incidental damage that Well-Laid Plans does, means I can just get a bunch of surprise dazes on a turn if I can just play it. And I also really like just being able to play it and then activate another model that can then do even more damage or capitalize on the damage that managed to happen. The scenario is really narrow, so this is the best the Grand Illusion's ever going to be, but I've been really disappointed with the Grand Illusion. It never seems to quite work out for me, so either make something happen this game, Grand Illusion, or you're done.
Today I'm playing Wakanda, and the models I chose to play are Black Panther, Shuri, Okoye, Valkyrie, and Ghost Spider. And the tactics cards I chose are Medpack, Brace for Impact, Disarm, Wakanda Forever, and Advanced R&D. And the plan is essentially just to play a pretty tempo-based game with Wakanda and all the pushes they have between Black Panther, Okoye, and the pull on Ghost Spider and Valkyrie's Throw, and just sort of try and win quickly by playing for the objectives, especially the secures. I think the scenario, at least the secure, suits my team pretty well. Gamma's a very live scenario, and all the reposition elements my team has will hopefully let me control that part of the scenario pretty easily. The other bonus for me is that Vince won priority, so I have last activation on turn 1, which allows me more flexibility with when I'm able to reposition models.
Vince deploys Mysterio in the middle. Pat deploys Valk on the bottom. Vince deploys Doc Ock at the top. Pat deploys Shuri in the middle. Vince deploys Goblin toward the bottom. Pat deploys Ghost Spider at the top. Vince deploys Bullseye above Mysterio. Pat deploys Panther in the middle. Vince deploys Zemo between Goblin and Mysterio. Pat deploys Okoye next to Panther. Vince plays Sinister Traps on the center objective. Vince activates Doc Ock, picks up the cube, and walks to cover behind the taxi. Our extract is Struggle for the Cube continues. Players score 1 point for every cube they're holding, and characters can hold any number of cubes. In the power phase, characters holding a cube suffer 1 damage for each cube they are holding. They also gain 1 power for each damage they suffer this way. Pat activates Ghost Spider, walks to the cube, picks it up, then walks over to the Gamma Shelter. Vince activates Goblin, walks to the cube, and scoops it up. He then heads over to the Gamma Shelter. Pat activates Valk. He walks over to the cube and picks it up. She then heads over to the Gamma Shelter. Vince activates Zemo. He moves onto the Gamma Shelter. Pat activates Shuri, walks up and attacks Doc Ock with Panther Gauntlets, dealing 1 damage and pushing Doc Ock. Vince activates Bullseye and walks twice behind the taxi. Pat activates Okoye, walks twice next to the center objective, and triggers Sinister Traps. Sinister Traps deals 3 damage and pushes Okoye off the center point.
So even with Sinister Traps on the table, I felt pressure to move Okoye forward to try and contest the center point, because with my game plan, I was sort of counting on winning that center point on turn 1.
Okoye plays Advanced R&D, giving 1 power to Panther, Valk, and Ghost Spider.
I decided to play Advanced R&D this turn and reallocate some of Okoye's power because she only had 1 health, and I thought that she would only be able to bodyguard once, and so only needed power for that. What I forgot was that she would die to the gamma damage because she wasn't near a shelter and only had 1 health left, and thus would actually be able to activate next turn and have more impact on the game if she still had the power.
Vince activates Mysterio, realizes that he has blocked his path to get to the extract.
I was surprised and a bit relieved to have Okoye just double walk into the sinister traps. I had been worried all game as to how I was going to prevent both Shuri from pushing me off my back point, yet still prevent Ghost Spider from pulling me into sinister traps. And to see Okoye just take it and then get pushed off the point, I was really happy. And I was like, now Mysterio's going to go grab it. Oh, wait, I've positioned badly and Mysterio's not going to be able to get there.
Mysterio walks up and attacks Okoye, but fails to do damage. He gets a power from Master of Illusions for rolling a blank. Pat activates Panther. He double walks to the middle point. He picks up the cube. This ends the turn. Pat scores 3 from cubes and 3 from Gamma. Vince scores 2 from cubes and 1 from Gamma. Score is now 3-6. Our secure is Gamma Wave sweeps across Midwest. Players score 1 point for holding the Gamma shelter closest to their deployment zone, 2 points for holding the middle, and 3 points for holding the far shelter. In the cleanup phase, characters that are not within 2 of a shelter take 1 damage. Gamma damage dazes Okoye. In the power phase, cubes deal damage to Doc Ock, Ghost Spider, Green Goblin, Valkyrie, and Black Panther. Vince activates Bullseye and attacks Panther. He uses the Goblin leadership, Oscorp weaponry, to force Black Panther to re-roll one of his defense dice. He does 1 damage and bleed. He attacks again, doing no damage, but uses I Never Miss to do 1 damage to Panther.
Man, Bullseye's such a boss here. Putting 2 damage on Panther, a character that is notoriously hard to put any damage on, like essentially for free. Oh, and he's bleeding? This character's nuts, dude.
Pat activates Okoye, walks to within 2 of Bullseye and attacks him. He blocks it. Okoye plays Medpack on Panther.
After Bullseye's activation, Panther has 3 damage on him, which is kind of a precarious position because he's so much stronger on his front side that you really want to keep him from getting dazed in the first place. So I decide that I have to activate some model to go and Medpack Panther to, clear him off and keep him alive for the rest of the turn. I decided to do it with Okoye, who only has 2 power, and this doesn't work out great because it stops her from bodyguarding for the rest of the turn.
Vince activates Goblin and attacks Panther. It does 1 damage and incinerate. He attacks him again, doing another 1 damage and poison. Pat activates Shuri. He walks up to the middle point. Goblin uses Trick or Treat to throw the dumpster at her, dealing 1 damage. Shuri shoots Doc Ock. She does no damage. She uses Black Panther's leadership, King of Wakanda, to pay 1 power and reroll 1 die. Still no damage. She pushes Ock. She gets an extra power for rolling a skull. Vince activates Mysterio, walks up, and attacks Panther. Ghost Spider uses Lifesaver to pull Panther to safety.
So I'm trying to put pressure on Panther, and even though Panther's in Lifesaver, I feel like I have to force him to pull the trigger on it, otherwise it's going to sit there and hang over my head for the entire game. So even though I know that it's not ideal for Mysterio to attack somebody other than Panther, I think I have to pull him up and threaten to kill him so that Gwen will save him.
Mysterio gets an additional action and uses it to attack Shuri. He deals 2 damage. He advances Shuri off the point and uses tricks and traps, but gets no damage. Pat activates Valk and walks to the center shelter. Mysterio tries to tricks and traps, but fails. He gets a power for rolling a blank. Valk uses 2 Shuri rerolls. She does 2 damage, and Mysterio gets an extra power for rolling a blank. Valk throws the car at Mysterio, dealing 1 damage. Mysterio gets an extra power for rolling a blank. Vince activates Zemo and charges Shuri, dealing 2 damage and dazing Shuri. He uses Steel Rush on Panther, dealing 2 damage. He advances onto the point.
So I've been really enjoying having the Zemo bubble back here with his rerolls increasing the damage that I'm doing, but I feel like I have to commit him here, because if I can get Shuri off the board, his Wakanda Forever this turn is going to be terrible, and if I prevent him from doing a big Wakanda Forever this turn, I think that I can turn the game next turn.
Pat activates Ghost Spider, walks up and uses Spider Technique on Zemo, dealing 1 damage. She takes her advance from Spider Technique to the far shelter and weblines Goblin off the point. Vince activates Doc Ock. She walks twice to the shelter and then throws Ghost Spider into the car. Mysterio triggers Tricks and Traps, dealing 1 damage. He gets a power from rolling a blank. He advances into the middle point, but is careful to stay out of 2 of Panther. Pat activates Black Panther.
My Black Panther activation this turn is pretty awkward because he has 2 health left. I'm out of ways to heal him, and he's both bleeding and has a cube. So if he takes a damage from the bleed and a damage from the cube, he dies in the power phase next turn, which means I don't have any Black Panther next turn. And since he's such an important part of the list, that's a pretty scary thing. And I also am faced with the difficulty of Tricks and Traps with my 2 health. So any movement which I would do to get close enough to use Panther's activation in a useful way also involves giving Vince the option to roll for Tricks and Traps and maybe just kill Black Panther right here.
He walks. Vince chooses not to Tricks and Traps with Mysterio.
So after thinking about a couple options for Black Panther's activation, I kind of decide that I have to take the most aggressive one and go and try and score Vince's back point. But this involves triggering Tricks and Traps, or giving Vince the option to trigger Tricks and Traps. And I was kind of surprised when he chose not to, even though he had the power.
Black Panther pounces into Ock, dealing 2 damage. Panther uses Mantle of the Black Panther and attacks Ock, dealing 1 damage, pushing her off the point and dazing her. She drops her cube. Panther picks up the cube. Panther takes 1 damage from bleed. This ends the turn. Pat scores 4 points from cubes and 3 from Gamma. Vince scores 1 point from cubes and 2 from Gamma. Score is now 6-13. Cubes deal damage to Panther, Goblin, Ghost Spider, and Valk. This dazes Panther. He drops his cubes near Zemo. Vince plays Well Laid Plans, dealing 1 damage to Ghost Spider, dazing her and dropping her cube. Well Laid Plans also deals 1 damage to Valk, dropping her cube as well.
Going into this turn, I'm feeling pretty good because I'm up 13 points to 6, and since I only have to get 16, I'm right there. But Vince plays Well Laid Plans, which dazes Ghost Spider and drops her cube, and also puts damage on Valkyrie and causes her to drop her cube. And I'm all of a sudden feeling like I'm in a pretty dangerous position here.
Vince plays The Grand Illusion.
So this is the turn, guys. We gotta make something happen here, or the game's gonna end. Pat needs 3 points to win the game, but I've got a bunch of tricks up my sleeve. So we open up with my two super strong tactics cards. I play Well Laid Plans, and Ghost Spider dazes, and Valk drops her cube. So we're good. We need to just get 3 damage on Valk. The plan is I'm going to have Zemo kill Valk, and he's just going to pick up a whole bunch of cubes.
Vince activates Zemo. Zemo attacks Valk, dealing 2 damage. He attacks again, dealing 1 damage. Zemo picks up 4 cubes. Pat activates Okoye and attacks Zemo, and uses 1 King of Wakanda reroll and 1 Shuri reroll. He deals 2 damage to Zemo. Okoye attacks Mysterio, paying to see through his illusion. She deals 1 damage. Vince activates Bullseye and throws a knife at Shuri. She takes 2 damage. Bullseye does a pin cushion into Shuri, dealing 1 damage with the first attack and 2 damage with the second.
Oh boy, Grand Illusion's doing some work. Oh boy, Grand Illusion. Woo!
This KOs Shuri. Vince activates Mysterio and double walks to the shelter. Pat concedes.
I think all the ticky-tack damage managed to add up against Wakanda, and I got a bunch of key dazes all on 1 turn. And with all the points up for grabs on Gamma and Cubes, I was able to close it out. Die, Spider-Cat! Thank you for watching Run the Length. You can support the channel via Patreon or by liking the video. Subscribe to see the next time a video comes out. But until then, I'm Vincent Curkov, and this has been Run the Length.